practice of Pesach within the 30 days before Pesach. Interesting story. The Choz of Lublin had a tradition that he used to invite some of his students to join him for the Seder on Pesach night. But the condition was he supplied them the food, but they had to bring the wine and the matzah, their own wine and matzah. So what happened was they prepared themselves, they made a ganze maisa, and one of the students prepared beautiful kosher wine, made sure it was done without any chametz, and he carries his barrel all the way to Lublin, and he's sitting at the Seder table. All of a sudden, the Choza is about to make Kiddush, and he says, I cannot make Kiddush. It smells chametz here. So everyone started to faint. Wow, who has chametz at the Seder table of the Choza of Lublin? There must be a mistake. So he sent one of his students to go smell. They had a certain way of smelling chametz, like they have lahavdil, lahavdil, lahavdil. You know, sometimes they have when they want to see if there's a bomb, they have these smelling. But this is a spiritual smell, to be able to smell that it's chametz. So they couldn't find it. Finally, the Choza pointed on this guy that brought a nice big barrel of wine. He says, I smell it from here. He says, what do you mean? He says, when you were traveling here, throughout your travel, you put the whole barrel of wine, you put it on a bench, on a table. The table that you put it on, even though it was clean, it was used for chametz. So even though the table was cold, the wine was cold, but since it was sitting on a table that was used for chametz, on Pesach we don't use it. It's a chumrah. Now what is the problem? A whole year it's not a problem. For example, if you take a table that's used for meat, and it's clean, and you put a cold piece of milk on it, it's not a problem because cold and cold, clean and clean, it doesn't absorb. But on Pesach, we're more stringent on Pesach that even if it's cold on cold, clean on clean, but since it was used for chametz on Pesach, you don't do it. So what do? If you notice, what we do is if we don't kosher it, you can kosher it, but if you don't, you cover it. So let's say your refrigerator. Your refrigerator, you don't have to kosher for Pesach, just clean it, but you have to just cover the shelf with something that the food is not sitting on something that was used for chametz throughout the year. If you didn't do it, it's kosher anyway. But on Pesach, it's a stringency that we do. Usually throughout the year, you don't want to do a stringency that you're not living up to it. But on Pesach, you could be more stringent in these kind of things. So here, it's a cold refrigerator, clean refrigerator, cold food on a cold surface. You still cover it with some aluminum or some kind of cover. So on the shelf of the refrigerator, it's always a cover. So this, you don't have a problem with chametz shelf for a kosher Pesach item. You got it? So this is a stringency that's only by Pesach. When it comes to regular kosher, you can have the same shelf you use for milk, you can use for meat, as long as you don't mix it together in one mix. But Pesach, you're a little more stringent.
How about the countertops? Also the countertops?
You can kosher it. If you didn't kosher it, cover it. Cover it with
Kosher it for Pesach, you say?
Yeah, you pour hot water on it and you cover it.
Why don't you just get a Pesach refrigerator that sells the whole stuff?
Then you need 7 refrigerators.
One for trade?
One for the non-kosher, one for the kosher, one for Pesach, one for meat.